It was the first day of December, 1948. A warm summer morning had just begun in the coastal city of Adelaide, South Australia. Along the shore of Somerton Beach, a man's body was discovered lying in the sand, his head propped slightly against a seawall. His legs were extended and his feet were crossed at the ankles. To passers-by, it looked like he was simply asleep. But he wasn't. He was dead. No one knew who he was. No one saw him arrive. And more than 7 decades later, we still don't know why he died. This is the true story of one of the most perplexing unsolved cases in modern history, the mystery of the Somerton Man. The body was first reported by 2 men on horseback, early in the morning, just a short walk from Glenelg, a seaside suburb of Adelaide. The man appeared to be in his 40s. He was clean-shaven, well-built, and dressed in a full suit, brown trousers, a white shirt, a tie, a knit pullover, and a tailored jacket. On his feet were polished shoes. No signs of a struggle, no injuries, no blood. But there was one odd detail. All of the labels on his clothing had been carefully removed. Police arrived on the scene and took the body to the city morgue. An autopsy was conducted. The cause of death was inconclusive. His organs showed signs of congestion and internal bleeding, particularly in the stomach and liver, possibly from poison, but no trace of poison was found in his system. No alcohol, no barbiturates, nothing identifiable. His fingerprints were taken and circulated throughout Australia and internationally. No matches. He carried no wallet, no identification, and no personal documents. Who he was remained a mystery. The man had a bus ticket, unused, from the city to the beach. He also had a train ticket to Henley Beach. In his pockets were a packet of chewing gum, a comb, a half-empty packet of cigarettes, and a box of matches. But there were no house keys, no hotel keys, no passport, no name tags. Investigators searched nearby hotels and boarding houses. No one reported a missing guest matching the description. Days passed, then weeks, still no identity. They began calling him the Somerton Man. 6 weeks later, a breakthrough. Railway staff at Adelaide Station reported an unclaimed suitcase deposited in a cloakroom on November 30th, the very day before the man was found dead. Inside were men's clothes, shaving equipment, slippers, and a screwdriver. Again, all labels had been removed, except for one, the name T. Keane, written on a tie. Police tried tracing it, but it led nowhere. No missing persons, no matching purchases. The name was likely planted, perhaps to mislead. There was also some unusual equipment inside, a stencil brush used by clerks or cargo workers, and most puzzling of all, a small sharpening tool used for cutting metal, typically found in field kits during wartime. Had this man been a spy? In June 1949, more than 6 months after the man's death, an even stranger discovery was made. A pathologist, re-examining the man's belongings, found a tiny hidden pocket sewn into the waistband of his trousers. Inside was a rolled-up scrap of paper, tightly folded and barely visible. On it were 2 printed words, Tamám Shud. They were not in English, they were Persian. The phrase means ended or finished. It's commonly used at the end of Persian poems, particularly those by the 11th century poet Omar Khayyam. This led police to search for books that might contain that phrase. Incredibly, someone came forward. A local man claimed that months earlier, on the day after the body was discovered, he had found a copy of the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam thrown in the back seat of his unlocked car. He hadn't thought much of it until hearing about the case on the news. He brought the book to police. Inside, on the final page, was a jagged tear, the exact shape and size that matched the Tamám Shud scrap found on the dead man. It was the same book, but that wasn't all. On the inside back cover of the book, police discovered something written faintly in pencil. It appeared to be a series of letters, 5 lines, seemingly random, spaced oddly. It looked like a code, a cipher, perhaps a secret message, but no one could crack it. The Australian military intelligence agencies and cryptographers all failed to decode the message. It didn't follow any known encryption method. Some theorized that the letters might be acronyms, the first letters of words in a poem, for instance. Others thought they might represent a one-time pad cipher, which could never be cracked without a key. To this day, the writing remains unbroken, but there was one more discovery inside the book. Also scribbled in the book was a telephone number, unlisted. It belonged to a woman living in Glenelg, only a few hundred meters from where the body had been found. Her name was Jo Thompson, a former nurse. When questioned, she claimed not to know the man, but she seemed nervous, possibly frightened. She refused to let her name be made public at the time. When shown a plaster cast of the man's face, since the body had already been buried, she appeared visibly shocked. According to the detective present, she nearly fainted. Yet she continued to deny knowing him. Years later, after her death, family members revealed that Jo may have known far more than she ever admitted. In fact, it was suggested she had once received a copy of the Rubaiyat as a gift, and that she had taught English to soldiers during the war. Among those soldiers was a man named Alfred Boxall, a man long suspected of being connected to the case. But when police tracked Boxall down, he was alive and well, living in Sydney with his own intact copy of the Rubaiyat. It was another dead end. Over the years, the case attracted intense public interest. Some believed the Somerton Man had been a spy, caught in the web of post-war espionage during the early days of the Cold War. The secrecy, the removed labels, the code, the rare book, all pointed to something covert. Others believed it was a tragic suicide, a man jilted by a lover, possibly Jo, who took his own life near her home. There were also more exotic theories: poisonings, government experiments, Soviet agents, or untraceable synthetic toxins. But without a clear cause of death, and with the body long buried, no theory could be proven. For decades, the case went cold. In 2021, after years of campaigning by amateur sleuths and forensic experts, the South Australian government granted permission to exhume the body of the Somerton Man. Using modern DNA extraction techniques, researchers worked to build a profile from the remains. In 2022, a major breakthrough was announced. A professor of forensic science, Derek Abbott, in collaboration with American genealogist Colleen Fitzpatrick, claimed they had identified the man, Carl Charles Webb, an electrical engineer and instrument maker born in Melbourne in 1905. They traced his DNA through distant relatives and constructed a family tree with over 4,000 individuals. Charles Webb had no known children. He had separated from his wife shortly before his disappearance. No death certificate had ever been filed, no grave, no will. He had simply vanished. While this identification marked a significant step forward, many questions still remain. Why was he in Adelaide? Why were his clothes unlabeled? Why did he have a copy of the Rubaiyat? And most of all, why did he die? The Somerton Man case is more than just a historical puzzle. It is a window into a time of paranoia, secrecy, and the quiet desperation that can haunt people's private lives. It reminds us that for all our science and systems, there are still lives that can slip between the cracks, unnoticed, unclaimed, unsolved. Whether Charles Webb was a spy, a heartbroken man, or simply someone lost to the world, we may never know the full story. What we do know is that he died alone, on a quiet beach, under a warm sky. And for over 70 years, no one even knew his name. But now, at least, he has one. He was buried in a grave marked only by the words, "Here lies the unknown man." But now we may finally know who he was. As for how and why he died, that still remains a mystery. If you enjoyed this story, please leave your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell to explore more real-life mysteries every week. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.